Debbie, thank you very much. I wanted to thank you all for joining us tonight. We're going to talk about the state of the society. We are going to go through a series of slides. They're fairly short to discuss the structure of the NSS, who's responsible for what, some new initiatives and some new challenges. And today I'm going to be joined by Dr. Kat Crispin, who is our Administrative Vice President, Scott Engel, who is the Executive Vice President, Maureen Handler, who is the Operations Vice President, Christine Embry, who is the Secretary Treasurer, and we also have Nathan Farrer, who is Chair of the Directorate for the Board of Directors. So I also want to thank Debbie. I think this may be our 50th webinar. They make excellent Grotto presentations. That's a great educational series, and Debbie has been the master of ceremonies for every one of those and has done a wonderful job. I just put a plug in for webinars. If you've ever done or given a Grotto program, you certainly can give a webinar, and Debbie would be happy to work with you, and she's incredibly patient because she's worked with me a great deal to make sure that we do webinars correctly in that. So, well, thank you all for joining us. Again, there's a number of things that we want to cover tonight, and then we're going to open it up for questions and see if we can answer your questions. So I'm going to go to our first slide, maybe. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about the NSS governance. It's a complicated organization, and unless you're really involved in the management or the direction of the NSS, you might not quite understand it. But we have a Board of Governors, and you'll commonly hear it referred to as the BOG. And the Board of Governors is composed of the Directorate and the Executive Committee. Let's see if I can reduce my thing. Here we go. The Directorate is composed of 12 directors, and each is elected to a 3-year term. So you should be getting your notifications related to elections of the 4 members of the board this year. So we elect 4 board members every year, and they serve for 3-year terms. Actually, this year we're going to have 5 directors because we have an opening because Christine has moved over to Secretary Treasurer, leaving her position open. So make sure you vote. One of the recommendations is that you get on our YM, our membership, your membership on the NSS webpage. Make sure that your contact information is up to date, your emails and that, so we can email you out your ballot so that we don't have to mail it. It'll save us, it saves us 50 cents for every person that we don't have to mail it to. So directors can serve 2 terms before they must stand down for 1 term. And then the directors select the officers of the society. So the NSS officers, the ones who are actually responsible for the day-to-day management of the organization, are not selected or elected by the membership. They're actually elected by the directorate, and they serve at the pleasure of the directors. So again, the Executive Committee, the EC, is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the NSS. And officers serve from year to year at the pleasure of the directorate. So any given year or any given time, if the board is not pleased with the direction things are going or our responsiveness, they certainly have the prerogative to replace officers as necessary. There's basically a minimum of 3 Board of Governor meetings each year, 1 in the spring, 1 in the fall, and then one is held at our national convention. We will sometimes hold more board meetings, generally remotely. With the idea that there's occasions where we may need to handle business that can't wait until one of the 3 board meetings each year. We also have 2 additional Executive Committee meetings. One about a month before the spring board meeting, and then another one about a month before the fall board meeting. At those meetings, the Executive Committee meets, and for example, in the spring board Executive Committee meeting, we're dealing with budgeting. So, and then in case you all weren't aware, officers and directors serve without compensation. So we really pay our own way to pretty much all the meetings. Okay, let's see if my slides will advance here. I seem to be having some problems with my, there we go. So currently we have 11 officers, Gary Barnes and Perry France, and Nathan and Carol Tiedemann, Julie Shank Brown, Adam Weaver, Will Urbanski, Savannah Sawyer, Cindy Wu, Stephen Godot, and Meredith Hall Weberg. And then we have one vacant position. The board chose not to fill that position at the last BOG meeting with the idea that they would just fill it during the election, because we weren't going to have a board meeting between the spring meeting and the summer meeting. So the NSS officers, again, my name is Gary Schindel, I'm president, and we have Dr. Kat Crispin, who's the administrative vice president. We have Scott Engel, the executive vice president, Maureen Handler, who's the operations vice president, and Christine Every, who is the secretary treasurer. So we're going to go through each one of those positions, and I'm going to allow each of the officers to basically speak about their programs and that. But again, the president is appointed by the director at the spring Board of Governors meeting. So I was just reappointed to serve again one more year at the spring meeting that was held in South Dakota. One of the duties that I have as president is basically to chair the executive committee and the Board of Governors meetings and to prepare the agendas. I represent the NSS to outside organizations, so some of you all may have seen during the Thai cave rescue there, there was occasions when I was speaking to the national news media or international news media when Anwar Mirza, who was our NCRC chair at the time, wasn't able to get to all the requests to speak. There's a lot of different programs underneath the president. I'm responsible for public relations, and then also the membership division, fundraising, awards, bylaws, board arrangements, Congress of Grottos, international secretary, all international business, business development, the legal committee, nominating committee, a number of different organizations like the Nature Conservancy, National Cave and Karst Research Institute, Land Trust of North Alabama, Karst Waters Institute, and the Karst Information Portal. I'm also responsible for government liaisons, so that committee is under me. And then, of course, planning, recording secretary, and secretary of the board. So the president basically handles the outside communications and relationships with for the NSS. So, for example, if we were to, when we entered into a memorandum of understanding or an MOA or an MOU, a memorandum of agreement with an outside organization such as the National Park Service, I would be the person working with our government liaison person to work on those negotiations and then ultimately sign that document at the direction of the board of directors. So, next we have the administrative vice president. I'm going to unmute Kat so that we can get her to speak a little bit about her program. Kat, are you up and online? Kat, I think you are muted, so you'll probably need to unmute yourself. I know that she's working in her lab and trying to also attend this meeting. She's been very busy at work. So, Kat, are you there? Okay, she may be tied up. We'll go to the next slide and then we'll come back to Kat when she's available.
Yeah, she's muted. She's muted herself and I can't unmute her.
Right. And besides that, we probably don't want to hear what's going on in their lab anyway, right?
Okay, there we go. She's now unmuted.
Are you there?
There you go, Kat.
Yeah, technical difficulties getting unmuted. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Kat Crispin. I serve as Administrative Vice President for the NSS. I am finishing up my 5th year as AVP, and it's been my pleasure to serve the society that fits my passions. I have 4 divisions underneath my department. I have a cave management division, which works with cave owner, organizations that manage caves, our preserves, and various different outreaches for any management that happens with caves on a national level. The preserves are actually under the Cave Management Division, but we have 14 preserves, and we're just getting a brand new preserve added. Hopefully sometime in the next couple of months, it should be finalized. The Education Division is responsible for outreach to the public. So one of the things that's underway right now is we're working on sets of lesson plans that teachers can go on and download lesson plans for their science classes. There's some other initiatives that we're undertaking with education also that are in the early stages for outreach. Conventions actually fall under my department. That's another one of my divisions. So I have people under me that are responsible for planning and carrying out the conventions that everyone attends every year. And we'll talk more about convention a little bit later because obviously it's been on everyone's mind with all the COVID-19 going on. Because unfortunately, for the first time since World War II, we had to cancel convention this year. And but it's the right decision for the society. Salons actually falls under the convention division also. There is that's where all the arts displays and stuff at convention come in. Responsible for NCRC, our National Cave Rescue Conservancy Committee, and the last division that is under me is the Conservation Division. So it works with local, state, and national and international organizations to help with conservation projects. So like repairing speleothems or helping to curate some of the flora, fauna found in caves. Anything that relates to a conservation project falls under that division.
Very good. One question I have here, Kat, for you is NSS conventions. How many years in advance are you working on conventions? So, and do you have any comments for people who might be interested in hosting a convention?
Yeah. So we currently are about 3 years out for our plans. So we actually have conventions scheduled for 21, 22, and 23 right now. We have some potential groups interested in a couple of years out from that. If you're interested in doing that, the best thing to do is to either send me an email or email the convention division headed by Carol Tiedemann, and she will be happy to talk to you and tell you, give you access to the manual for running a convention so that you can understand what all is involved with that.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next officer. Okay, Scott Engel is, okay, you're unmuted. And Scott, you want to describe your programs?
Sure. I'm Scott Engel, Executive Vice President. The Executive Vice President role generally kind of takes care of loosely the science side of the organization. You know, our mission statement, we have science, we have conservation, we have management of caves and resources, etc. And so most of the science categories fall under the Executive Vice President role. And that includes our publications through the NSS News, as well as the Journal of Caves and Karst Studies. We also are in charge of the members manual, as well as special publications which covers books. So all the books that are published by the NSS and maintained by the NSS fall under special publications as a large group. And then I also incorporate several of the granting programs for U.S. And international exploration grants, as well as research grants for academic research. We also, as part of the publications, also include the caving accidents. American Caving Accidents as one of the publications. And then we also, again, as part of our science outreach, we have representatives that for the AAAS and AGI, which AAAS is the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and AGI is the American Geological Institute, that we are affiliate members with and provide representation at their various meetings throughout the years and contribute to those organizations. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Those don't seem like a lot, but yet they can be very time consuming, particularly when we start dealing with these large publications. And as you know, the news coming out every month takes a large amount of effort on a number of people's parts, especially Dave Bunnell, who is our lead editor for the news and has been for a number of years now. A few words with respect to what's happening in the context of COVID under the Exec Vice President roles. Fortunately for us, we haven't been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 issues. The Journal and the News are still on track for publication as normal. Both of our printers that we use for those publications have been accommodating, and they have maintained operations throughout the various quarantines and stay-at-home restrictions. They're basically considered an essential business, so they've been able to continue to provide services for us. We have one book that is scheduled to come out this year, and that is a book about the life and untimely death of Peter M. Hauer, who is being written by Roland Vineyard. That book is near completion and will be going into production soon. Our target goal was to debut that book at convention, particularly because Peter M. Hauer was from West Virginia, and we thought it was appropriate to debut that at a West Virginia convention. But given with the cancellation with convention, that's obviously not going to be the case. But we are still going to publish that book this year, and we will focus on online advertising and other venues where it can be distributed at, possibly if TAG doesn't get delayed or held off. Some of those other regional events, hopefully we can provide some exposure at. Other main topic is Members Manual. Members Manual did not get published last year due to mostly because we were transitioning to our new online membership management system. That transition is now complete, and things are getting streamlined and sorted out, and so we are back on track to publish the Members Manual this year. We do not have a print date for it yet. It will probably be, given the challenges we've had this spring, it's anticipated that we will put the Members Manual out in the second half of this year at a date yet to be determined. But it is coming. So we, for those that were looking for it, it is out there. There was a recent notification that was put on Facebook, as well as some of our other social media, and also a small article that was put into the NSS News this last month, where we're changing up the distribution of the Members Manual a little bit, as we've seen an increase in interest in a lot of our members to receive publications electronically. We are offering that as an option for our members to receive the Members Manual, not receive a print copy of the Members Manual, but be able to access it electronically through our website, and also realistically through our new Members Manual, or not Members Manual, but our new Members Portal. You can actually go in and do searches and find contact information for all of our active membership online today, right now. So I encourage you to look into that if you haven't done that. And I think that's about it in terms of news and happenings in my section.
One question I did have for you, Scott, is related to the NSS News. Dave, can you give a plug for Dave and Dave Bunnell and the fact that he's always looking for material to publish? So what can people do if they want to submit something to the news?
Yeah, sure. Dave is definitely always looking for content. If you've got something interesting that you'd like to see put forward in the news, by all means contact Dave Bunnell directly, or you can also get to him through me, through the EVP. all of that's easily findable by just looking in the inside page of the NSS News or on the website. All that contact information is there. And you can send material to him directly, or you can contact him to find out more specific information of what he's looking for and when he needs it. There are deadlines in terms of publication of when you can submit something versus when it actually comes out in print. So you need to make sure that that's clear and understood. I could also give a plug for those that are more scientifically bound. We are always looking for good content for the Journal of Cave and Karst Studies as well. So if you're on the academic career path or would like to be and are interested in more science side of things, the Journal of Cave and Karst is always looking for submissions as well.
Yeah. And then
For that matter, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I said it also has a very high impact rating, I understand.
Yeah, we do pretty well, and we're one of only two journals in the world that are focused on karst, caves and karst, that have an impact rating. So it's us and the International Journal of Speleology, and so we're kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Todd, do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so, and I'll be available for questions if anybody else comes up with something when we get to the end.
Well, super. Okay, well, let me see if this will advance. Maureen, are you on?
I am on.
Well, let me get over to where you should be here. And I apologize again. Sometimes, PowerPoint doesn't want to play nicely with everybody. There we go. Cheer.
All righty. Well, we've under the operations vice president, I am directly responsible for the list you can see. Primarily what I spend most of my time on is the office staff and the buildings and the grounds. In addition to that, we work on the library. We have a lot to do with information technology, and the reason I use we is I am not that good with it, so I have awesome people in my committee who make sure that the website stays running and the emails stay flowing. And the final thing that I'm responsible for is the internal organizations, which are all of the additional regions, grottos, special interest groups, sections, all fall under internal organizations. As far as the recent couple of months, we were shut down at the office because of the coronavirus. The office was closed basically for the month of April. Michelle took a layoff. She was actually only laid off for a couple of weeks, luckily 3, I think. Christy continued to work part-time so that at least we could respond to members, we could answer our mail, we could deposit all of those wonderful donation checks that people like to send us. As of this past Monday this week, the office is back open again full time. We meet the requirements of the state because we're a small office, less than 10 people, and it's easy enough for them to stay apart from each other within the office. It's very nice to have everybody back. I know Christine will talk more about the finances, but I did want to mention that we have been approved for the Small Business Payroll Protection Program loan, which is a forgivable loan for the portions of it that we use for payroll. So that portion, our payroll for 8 weeks, basically becomes a grant, which is really going to help with some of the other issues that have happened because of COVID. As far as the building goes, of course, our renters canceled. Our renters canceled for most of March, all of April, all of May, and I believe some of June. Of the 20 renters that have canceled, about 20, I think there's 19, 8 of them have rescheduled for later in the year, 11 have not. We do certainly hope that after this passes and we can start having group events again in Alabama, that our rentals will start to pick up as well. And Christine will talk a little bit more about how that has actually affected our finances, but that's the actual physical part of it. And of course, with the Alabama state shutdown, we've had no work weekends. We've had no work days. We had one scheduled in March, which I really canceled at the last minute. The one person who I did have come down, who was just there working with me, Tim Smith, who is a locksmith from Tennessee. And now those of us who have to get everywhere in the building, we have 2 master keys that get us into the entire building instead of 47. And he has done basically all of that work for us pretty much at cost. So about a third of what it would have cost us to go to a locksmith and get this done. So we hope starting maybe in June that we can start having work days again at the headquarters. So please keep tuned. And I try to get emails out to all of the southeastern grottos and up into Virginia and Kentucky, anywhere southern Indiana, that's close enough for people to actually come down for a weekend. So that's pretty much the majority of how we've been affected by COVID. Some of the other things that we do have going, we're ready to sign a contract with an architect to do the redesign of the back bathrooms to include showers. So when cavers and NSS members especially come down and stay and camp out at the headquarters, which they can do for free anytime as long as they're NSS members, we get this work done, first the architect and then hire a contractor, you'll be able to take a shower after caving all day. So that's going to move forward. That was funded, the work in our back 5 separately by a grant from Gale Beach. So it's not coming out of our operations fund. This was money that was specifically put aside. So that's the majority of what's going on with the building. Some of the other things that I'm responsible for, of course, the library, archives, and museum. It's the first time ever that we have been able to have our library, our archives, our cave files, and our museum all in one place and mostly all out on display. The library is fairly functional, that you go down. We are working on trying to come up with a digital catalog so that you don't have to, you have to come to the library and go through a paper catalog to see what we've even got to do research. With a digital catalog, in the future, people can do research and request scans of certain portions of books or publications that we have in the library. So we hope maybe about this time next year that we can have this kind of online searchable digital catalog. The museum, various individuals and grottos and groups have sponsored display cases. We've got a lot more stuff, and we certainly have a lot more room to put stuff out. It all depends on the funding that we get for the display cases. And I hope sometime in a near future issue of the NSS News that we can take some photos of this, and actually the people who aren't local, who can't get to Huntsville, can see how the museum is shaping up. The archives are now mostly all moved into the library. The photo archives are actually kept in a separate climate-controlled room, and there is some old bog stuff, minutes and things like that are stored in an adjacent room. But it's really wonderful to be able to have this entire caving, more than a library, this entire caving collection all in one place for research and for viewing. Information technology, we've got a new website steering committee. The existing website works. There's a lot of issues with it. That has been a website that has just grown and grown and grown as we add more and more and more to it, that if you actually look into the mechanics of our website, there are over 800,000 individual links, and it has become incredibly cumbersome. Unfortunately, like everything else that we do within the NSS and at the headquarters, it all costs money. That's where Christine and I work closely together. We have not funded the actual work that it's going to take to create this website, but we have a group of volunteers willing to start putting together an outline and a vision for how we want this new website both to look and function for our members. It's one of the biggest things we have for our members. You can go in and look at past NSS newses. You can go in and look at past convention manuals. You can go in and search members. I know Scott mentioned we didn't get a paper members manual last year, but you know what? You can go in online and look at it digitally and find what you're looking for with all of our current members. Lastly, I'm also in charge of internal organizations, and the biggest change in that in the last year is now the IO committee is putting out the internal organization newsletter. And that newsletter should be being mailed out to every main contact for a Grotto, and we certainly hope that contact for the Grotto is then sharing it onto the Grotto email list. Those are the primary things that have gone on. I've actually only been the OVP for about 7 months. The next major thing that I'd like to get done, we are ready to order bricks to lay down the memorial brick patio for everyone who has bought various donations for these bricks. I had hoped to do one last major push at convention to maybe sell 100 more bricks, with convention being canceled. That's not going to happen. Hopefully next year we still have room. We've sold about 700 bricks, of which total, I think we have room for about 1,600. So we're not quite halfway on what we have room for. But that's the OVP in a nutshell.
Good. Would you spend a second and just talk a little bit about our office staff, who they are, and when people call in, who they talk to, and who's responsible for what?
Sure. We've got 2 people at the office in the office. Christy Starr, who is our office manager. She's been with the NSS for about 4 years now, I believe, maybe a little bit longer. She took over from Stephanie when Stephanie left the NSS. She pretty much handles the rentals, the general business of the NSS, the things that have to go on a day-to-day basis, a certain level of the day-to-day bookkeeping. The other office staff is Michelle Vaughn, and Michelle is a longtime NSS member. She has been with the NSS now close to 10 years. Her 2 primary responsibilities are the bookstore. She's the one, when you call in and order books, she's the one that you're talking to. She gladly takes your money and gets your order put together and out so that we can get your books as quick as possible. And she is also now our primary membership person. She is the one who is becoming the expert in the YM, the Your Membership software. So when you get online and you have trouble logging in and you send an email and it goes to memberservices@caves.org, Michelle sees that email and she's the one who responds to either send you a password reset link or to help you get logged in or to give you instructions to navigate around within the YM, of which you will see more about. We do want to put some information about all the YM services that you can access by getting a few short articles in the NSS News to make it easier to navigate the system.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Maureen. All right.
My pleasure.
Yep. We're going to go down to the Secretary Treasurer, Christine Embry.
I'm the new Secretary Treasurer. I took the seat of the Secretary Treasurer in early of March 2020. I'm appointed by the directorate in the fall BOG meeting, but then I don't actually take the seat as the secretary treasurer until the spring BOG meeting. And then that gives us a 6-month period to be able to switch over the bank accounts and switch over all the financial account information and to get caught up on the finances and the business of the NSS. So that's why the ST position is a little bit different than the other positions when it comes to being voted in versus taking your seat. I support the other officers with the timely financial reports, but I also dig into the financial reports. Of course, I work heavily with the office. I work heavily with Maureen. This has been an unusual time period. I have to say that nothing quite gets you immersed into a job, specifically a financial job, than a pandemic with epic financial ramifications. Coronavirus hit about 3 weeks after I took this position, and it was absolute baptism by fire and terrifying, all in the same time. So it is by far the fastest and the most efficient way to learn. I jumped in with both feet, trying to figure out very, very, very quickly how we are going to withstand this storm that was going to hit. Before that happened, we had some happy pre-corona days, and we did a successful migration from QuickBooks Enterprise to QuickBooks Online. How we currently was accessing our finances were through a remote desktop and going into a server. It was unreliable and it was slow. We would sometimes have a problem if QuickBooks was in the wrong mode. Multiple people couldn't get in there, and it just was fairly clumsy. So we was able to migrate over to QuickBooks Online fairly quickly. I did that almost immediately when I took the seat. We intend on launching other little QuickBooks sessions for our other divisions. So we have our main QuickBooks up and going. Everything is fantastic with that. We can access it through a browser. Our intention was to have smaller QuickBooks sessions also available for our different divisions, like the salon, the convention, and most importantly, NCRC. And there's been a delay. And so that's my number one priority, is making sure I get those QuickBook sessions going for those divisions. Right now, they're kind of running a little bit blind until I can get those sessions up and going for them. And it's just been a big delay with coronavirus. Unfortunately, everybody, because of state mandated orders, businesses have been shutting down. And even if folks hadn't been shut down, then because their children or their grandchildren are out of school, or if they have elderly parents, for whatever reasons, it's not business as usual. And so there are delays across the board in just about everything that we've been dealing with. But, we're going to get through it. We are definitely going to be getting through it. So we did move from QuickBooks Enterprise to QBO. That did save us thousands of dollars. We were spending roughly about $3,700 on the enterprise licenses. For QBO this year, it only is going to cost us $169. If we bring up another session, which we're going to bring up at least a few more, it's only going to cost us around $149 for each session. So it was a good move to make. It also was more reliable and flexible service and access. The other thing we had done was migrated our payroll services from ADP over to QBO as well, and that's going to save us an additional $840. So those were just some of the fun stuff I got to do before coronavirus hit. And then coronavirus hit, and it was all hands on deck. So far, I'm happy to say, though, NSS is doing fine. We didn't incur any other debt. We haven't had to defer any payments. the office was closed for a while, as Maureen had mentioned. We were coded as non-essential. I immediately on April 1st had applied for the PPP loan. We were approved for $21,000. It will be forgivable under the rules of the PPP loan. It will be used for payroll and strictly for payroll so that we could bring our full-time employees back. Happy to say that it appears, we did lose about $4,000 as of right now, and bookstore sales and donations. For the most part, our membership has actually stayed pretty stable. I'm very happy to say that for the most part, it seems to be okay. Our biggest hit by far is our headquarter rentals, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get further on down. We had 19 cancellations, 11 of those haven't rebooked, and that could be a loss of about $15,000. So that's the main hit that we took. The only thing that I am going to say though is we're not out of the woods. So I'm definitely sleeping these days, which is a lot different than I can say 2 weeks ago, and I feel a lot better about a lot of things. But we're not out of the woods. We don't know what this virus is going to do, and we don't know what the impact is going to be on our members. And if we don't know what the impact is going to be on our members, we certainly don't know what the impact is going to be on our organization and on the NSS. So I'm very optimistic, but I'm very cautiously optimistic.
Well, great, Christine. Thank you for that update. I do have to add one thing. I think the Secretary Treasurer position, which is considered probably the hardest officer position, that there's certainly the most responsibility in making sure that our day-to-day financial obligations are met. And she works very well with all the other officers to make sure that we meet those obligations. So thank you. And I want to say thanks to Gailey Speck, who was the Secretary Treasurer before you. I think she was there for 3 or 4 years. And again, just an immense amount of work to transition us from basically an Excel spreadsheet accounting system into the QuickBooks realm. So we're making a lot of progress there. So anyway, well, thank you. Let's go on to our chair of the directorate, and Nathan. I think Nathan is on here and he's good to go. Nathan, did you like to cover some of the areas you're responsible for?
Sure. Thank you, Gary. And thank you especially for organizing this presentation and keeping our members updated and informed throughout the crisis. As I told you, yesterday on the phone, I've heard quite a bit of positive feedback from our membership about these updates, so I really appreciate it.
Good.
To cover my realm, I was elected chairman of the directorate, or COD, as you may hear it called, during our last summer BOG meeting in Cookeville, and I'm serving in this capacity on a 1-year term. When the directorate meets separate from the Board of Governors, which they do at least once during each of the 3 main BOG meetings each year, the COD presides over those meetings. And it's during these closed sessions that the candidates for the officer positions are interviewed and elected. Most importantly, I think the COD acts as a conduit of communication between the executive committee and the directorate. The COD is included in all EC communication, all directorate communication, and then keeps the other party informed of any pertinent information or happenings. And this is crucial because the officers and the directors together comprise a team that is the Board of Governors, but at the same time they have different roles, where the directors are more focused on long-term strategy and planning, and officers are focused, as Gary mentioned, on the day-to-day operations of the society. Really, our officers are the stars of the show, putting in terribly long volunteer hours, especially during this crisis, to better serve you, the membership, and to further the society's mission. So please take advantage of having them on the call tonight and ask them all about their accomplishments and their great plans for the future. Another item, as many of our members aren't aware, is that all 5 officers of our society are on an even playing field. For example, the president has no authority over any of the other VPs or the secretary treasurer. Rather, each officer has their own departments that they're individually responsible for. And from a reporting or hierarchical standpoint, this means that any issues the officers have in their own departments come straight up to the directorate or to the board, depending on the matter. So that's an important distinction of how our organization is structured, different from many. The directorate, and therefore the chairman of the directorate, is responsible for finding candidates to run for the officer positions, which is done through the executive search committee. And the directorate is responsible for selecting and seating the officers, and also, quite separately, for ensuring that the finances of the society are being regularly reviewed. Note that I didn't say the directorate itself is responsible for reviewing the finances. That falls to the whole board, to the secretary treasurer, and to a third-party auditing firm. But rather, the directorate ensures that the finances of the society actually are being regularly reviewed. And this falls to the financial review committee. Finally, a new function that's fallen to the directorate, and temporarily so, is an investigation into and an evaluation of the possibility of our society having an executive director. This executive director exploratory committee under the directorate is looking into the feasibility of such a position. You know, what would an executive director be responsible for? What does that mean for the officers and the committees that are currently responsible for those areas? And how would we fund such a position? So they're all tough questions, and we're looking forward to the committee's next report. While on the topic of the directorate, and as Gary hinted at, we have finalized this year's slate of candidates running for director, and you can now read their platform statements on the nominating committee webpage. An announcement will be posted to our homepage, caves.org, and to our social media outlets very soon if it hasn't already gone up. Ballots will be mailed out in less than a week, I believe Monday, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you all for attending this meeting. Please don't hesitate to ask me any questions you may have once we get to that part of this evening's presentation. And I'll pass it back to Gary.
All right, thank you, Nathan. Okay, so here we go. So we have a number of issues that we'd like to discuss. I've got 5 major bullet points. Some of will are basically just informative to the membership in that, and then certainly we'll be happy to take any questions afterwards in that. But the first item that we have, we're going to go back to Kat and see if she'd like to bring us up to date with what's going on with the Elkins 2020 convention and any of the specifics related to virtual meeting and pre-registration and future conventions. So, Kat, are you still available? There you go. I'm sorry. Are you, there you go. Kat, are you up? Okay.
So, yeah, as mentioned before, we had to make the very, very, very difficult decision to cancel this year's convention. We were well on the way with all of the planning and arrangements. So the last month has been extremely busy, canceling things, getting deposits back, making arrangements going forward. The good news is that the entire staff for the Elkins 2020 convention has agreed to come back for the 2023 convention. So we're just going to delay our trip to West Virginia a bit. But I'm really happy that they have agreed to take that on. And we've gotten commitments from a lot of the people that we had contracted with already to support us in 2023. So that's the good news. There are, and I don't have firm numbers of this because the deadline isn't until tomorrow, but we are going to have a virtual convention, which will be kind of an abbreviated version of the convention where certain presentations, salons, and various presentations will be available online. We're still working out the details of that, but stay tuned because as soon as we have the sessions that are willing to do this and the speakers that are willing to do this, we will be releasing information. We've been meeting every week, talking about how to go forward with this and make it happen. So I hope to have some good news to announce very, very soon. I know a lot of people are asking about those that are pre-registered. We're working on it. It is not, refunds are pretty straightforward, but we want to be able to give you the option for two different options, and that is to be able to transfer your pre-registration directly to 2021. And that's what's causing our slowdown right now, is figuring out the mechanism to do that. The other option you will have, so you'll have an option of a refund, transfer to 2021, or you can donate it to the society. I've had several people already tell me that they just preferred to donate it. So we're going to make that option available also. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some of these bugs worked out. I'm planning to have everything up and running by June 1st to get the refunds and transfers underway. In the meantime, my 2021 convention has been kicked into overdrive, and I've been meeting with Matt Bowers, who's the chair for it, at least 2 to 3 times a week. We talk in order to figure out what we're doing, because he realizes that we're going to get a huge influx immediately because of the cancellation this year. So plans are shaping up there very quickly, and he'll be releasing some more information in coming weeks also. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on with conventions. And stay tuned, because as things come up, I will make sure that the membership is kept updated via social media, emails, etc.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Kat. Let's see if we can move on to the next one. NSS convention, NSS membership. Just to give you all an update on membership, we've been watching it pretty carefully. Been trying to do what we can to increase member services net. But right now, as of April 30th, we're at 7,389 members. We've been relatively stable for the last few months, but we're down from a high of over 12,000 people about 5 years ago. We're trying to add membership benefits. We've added expert voice, which allows us to get discounts on camping gear, etc. We got things like camping going on at the headquarters. If you'd like to come down and camp, volunteer, go camping, or whatever. So, and we've got the about 25 or so benefits of being a member. I didn't want to go into them all, but I think we're going to be rolling out some information in the news about benefits of your membership. We also have a new idea related to a book giveaway. We have a number of books that no longer sell at quite the volume that they used to. And we're looking at trying to set up a program where we give away, if you buy a book, we'll give you a book or more even if you cover shipping, and that helps us reduce our inventory and helps get those books out in the hands of people that appreciate them. The other thing we're looking at is moving forward with the board to try and look at a monthly membership. We have a number of folks that basically say $50 or $60 a month is a year is a big chunk at any one time, but they could certainly put $5 a month on their credit card and just basically roll that forward, and they don't think they've missed that. And so it's just another way to basically cover your membership dues. So we've got some new ideas we're always working on. Let me move this down to our next, here's the graph I wanted to show you all. We're still getting people joining, new members net and renewals. You can see that over the last, basically the year, the membership has dipped down some and then come back up a little bit in the last couple months by a few tens of people. we really need to encourage folks to rejoin. The more members we have, we have this economy of scale. It's cheaper to cover our overhead, cover our employee salaries and benefits and that if we have a larger membership, and we can do more for conservation and education. So it's something that we're working on, and you'll be seeing more here in the future about NSS membership. So let's see if I can go to the next slide. We've got some interesting news. One of the things that Galen's been able to do is basically put together some information on our headquarters. And some of you, those of you who have not been down to Alabama, that basically is the front of our building. As you know, a number of years ago, we bought the old Shriner facility, and we have been making it our own since then. So let me go move to very interesting information related to rentals. One of the concerns was we bought a facility that was probably larger than what we needed. It certainly gives us plenty of room to grow, to expand, to lay out our library, put in our museum, to have our Spiel of the Arts projects, our programs going, etc. But we have a very large ballroom in the headquarters, and we also have 5 rooms in the back of the building that really haven't been developed yet. But we rent the grounds, we rent the pavilion that we have out front, and we also rent the headquarters. And as you can see, it's actually a significant income generator. About 2.5, 3 years ago, we had some issues. We were trying to renovate our bathrooms and bring them from the 1960s Shriner motif that looked a lot like a truck stop into more modern facilities. And we were finally able to do that. It was more expensive than we thought it would be. And in addition, we had to tear down one of our buildings that was sitting down in the old, across from the Cave Avenue headquarters, because it was basically considered by the city of Huntsville an abandoned building, even though we were using it for storage. And so we've been renting out the headquarters, so we've been renting out the facilities and that, and we've been using it to generate some income. And we were well on our way to being able to generate maybe $50,000 or $60,000 that would go towards upkeep of the building and some of the other things that we'd like to do. The COVID-19 has kind of put a damper on that. Hopefully it'll come back here a little bit, but and later in the year. But as we move down the road and that, I think we're going to be very pleased that we've got this thing. One of the reasons why I say that is because with the size of our membership, we do get a lot of donations from our membership, but we're always in the process of asking and trying to shake them down, shake everybody down to obtain donations to be able to run the organization as well as memberships and that. But this offers an opportunity to basically generate another revenue source outside of our membership. So this is basically funds that are not coming from our members that help support many of our member services. And so I think we've got a lot of potential for the headquarters rental in the future, especially as we start talking about renovation of the back 5 rooms, where we're going to be able to rent those out as conference facilities, et cetera, as well as educational programs for our members. So here's some information on our headquarters. Currently, as of June 2020, because we've made our May payment, we owe $110,000 on the mortgage. So we've taken it from just under $2 million 7 years ago, and we now owe only $110,000. We've got basically 24 payments left. We borrowed the funds. We basically after 5 years of getting a commercial loan, we went back in and we refinanced it through our NSS Life Members Fund to pay off the difference. We've got some very generous donations from the Beach, Gail and Ray Beach, as well as Raja Spurka. We were able to make a substantial dent in the amount of money that we owe. And currently, we've got 24 months left at $4,959 per month that we pay off. So we're scheduled to pay this thing off on May 2022. And again, during the pandemic, we've been able to make the payments for the headquarters. Most of that doesn't come out of membership fees, it actually comes from donations from Team 404. And to be a Team 404 member, it's a $25 per month or more donation, and or $300 per year. And we have enough between that and the rentals to cover basically the cost of the headquarters now. Of course, we also get other donations, which we appreciate. Donations are down right now in February and March, but that's usually the case because we have so many people who donate in January and December. So, but again, we've lost our rental income for the foreseeable future, and we're working on ways to address that issue. So, we do have a headquarters renovation that we're interested in. Maureen will probably want to get involved in that, but we have five back rooms at the headquarters. And currently, one of the rooms is being used for Grata meeting. The rest are being used for storage and logistics, basically shipping and receiving use, a little bit of it. Some of our archives are there. But the idea is that we would, once we've gotten the headquarters and ballroom and that up where we want them, which we do now, that we would go back in and look at those meeting rooms. We have some plans for doing that in a series of stages or phases in that. One of the things, as Maureen had already talked about, is upgrading the back bathrooms. They're not in great shape. They really need a renovation, but also knock out one of the back walls and add showers to it for the cavers for people who are staying. One of the other phases at the same time will be basically to remove the wall between the two larger classrooms back there, put in an expandable wall so we can either open it up or separate it, and then use it so we can use it jointly, and then upgrade it for IT and AV purposes, and be able to use that room for educational programs or for rentals. So it'll generate more income for us. And then in addition, as we expand our educational programs in the future, I'd love to see us have a educational program sort of modeled on what Western Kentucky University does at Mammoth Cave, in the sense that we could hold cave photography, cave geology, cave biology, cave training, cave rescue classes, any kind of class related to caves and caving could be offered there. So those upgrades will occur as basically as time and funds and needs dictate. We do have a sizable grant from Gail Beach, who passed away about a year ago, and she had earmarked that basically for educational purposes and for a museum. And so instead of using that to pay off the headquarters net, she asked that we actually use it for what she considered orphan programs that commonly don't have a lot of support. And so she thought the idea of upgrading the back rooms to use them for educational museum purposes was very appropriate for her very generous gift. So, Maureen, do you have anything you want to add to that? Okay. Maureen, do you have anything you want to add?
My phone was in my pocket. No, I mean, I think that pretty much, covers what our plans are for back there. But, it's, you had mentioned being able to have cave and karst classes. We can also market this space to other outdoor education groups, whether it be something like the Trust for Public Land or the Sierra Club or things like that, that we would have a facility that not only would we have to further our goal, but to further the goal of additional outdoor education groups and also bring some outside money into the NSS.
That's correct. And at the last board meeting, the board of directors has approved a contract to work with an architect to develop and design those plans so we can then bid out the material and go get our permits. Okay, very good. And then, of course, one of the other issues that we want to discuss is finances. I think that Christine's pretty well covered that. I'm not sure if there's anything else that she'd like to add, but one of the ideas was that we're always in the process of looking for funds to help us further our goals, and that. So we're also checking on trying to obtain some grants do some of the educational outreach. One of the other things we'd like to do is, we talked about this out in the back parking lot area behind the headquarters, is to put in a vertical tower for training purposes. So anyway, having said that, I think we're pretty much through our presentation. We'd be happy to take some questions if anybody has any. Let me see if I can try and drag the questions out here. So feel free, and I will try and answer any or get them to the right officer if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask. And you can do that by just typing in a question, and I'll get it over to the right person. I think maybe we've worn everybody out. I know I'm worn out, so. Rich, I think you actually are live, mic-wise, if you want to say something.
I see you stumbled across the unmute button for me. I just wanted to say that I'm Rich Geisler, and also on this call is Meredith Weberg. We are the co-chairs of 2020, and as was already mentioned by Kat, it was quite a sad and depressing but necessary decision that had to be made. And after you got through the bottom of the depression and we picked our heads up and looked around and we said, we can still do something, why not? And so that's when we pivoted over towards this idea, this notion of a virtual online, some kind of something to give back. And we've been quite impressed and surprised and amazed by the number of people that are stepping up and saying, yeah, sure, we'll participate. So as Kat also mentioned, we're trying to put together, by June 1st at the latest, but probably sooner than that, compiling a table, a list, a description of all of the different offerings that will happen. We will be doing a combination of videos for what would have been presentations, and we're also going to be doing some live webinars kind of like this for what would have been the section meetings. And it may be a little awkward at times, but hey, it's better than nothing. And it's going to be something that we give away for free simply because what do you do in a situation like this? You take those lemons and you make as much lemonade as you can out of them. So again, just look forward to some announcements and some information coming soon. And that's it, unless anyone has a question back to me.
Great, thank you, Rich. We'll see if we've got some questions here. Thank you. All right. Well, I think we've probably answered everybody's questions with a very thorough presentation. And I want to thank my officers and
you
Nathan.
do have a question that just came in.
Oh, it did. Okay, I don't see it come up. All right, who's it from, and what are they asking?
It's Derek Bristol. Says
Okay.
many government agencies have suspended bat research due to the concern that people could infect bats with COVID-19. There might be a risk that this could lead to another wave of cave closures for non-researchers. Is the NSS aware of this issue, and is anything being done to defend cave access?
Derek, that's an excellent question, and the answer is yes. One of my concerns that we had was the statement that we put out about a month and a half ago, recommending that we stand down from caving for a while. It appears to be being used to try and limit access to caves. And I'm not sure if that was quite the intent. There are certainly people who have legitimate reasons for going into caves. And I think as we see some of the states are starting to open up with some recommendations with proper personal protective equipment, et cetera, and social distancing and that there may be some opportunities there. So I think what you're going to see in the probably next couple of days to a week is another statement from the president's office related to some recommendations on caving in an environment that may be a little bit less restrictive than it has been in the last couple of months. So yeah, we're aware of that, and I think now that we've kind of got a little experience with this and understand the problems with the COVID-19 a little better, and that we may be able to now start to get back into doing some caving. So certainly we need to do that safely. One of my concerns is that we may still see a second round of this come through, and I really think that I'd really encourage our members to be safe about getting out and getting around others and caving and that. But so I hope that answered your question. Yeah, matter of fact, I've had a couple phone calls on that in the last couple of days on that very issue. So thank you. And Derek, I also wanted to say thank you for your very fine series related to videos. You put an immense amount of work into them. And I would encourage you to do some webinars on maybe how to put together videos. Do wonderful work. Thank you.
Okay, one more question. It's from Meredith. It says, is there for a website comment, is there an easier way to sign up for auto renewal for membership? I'm trying to follow renewals for 2 grottos and a section CDS plus NSS National, and it's a lot to keep track of. Is there a way you can make it easier for me to give you money on an annual basis?
Well, I'll answer that one too. One is, yes, we always like people giving us money, and that's something that as we become more familiar with YM and get it up and running, I think that it now has an auto renewal function. I think Christine is still on here, and she's what I would call, she's my go-to person for YM questions, and that's Christine, are you there?
I am, and we do have an auto renewal function. If you call the office and talk to Michelle, she'll be more than happy to walk you through tomorrow and make sure you are set up on auto renewal so that every year it'll just go ahead and renew all the memberships that you do set up for auto renewal. Just be aware though that these days debit cards will expire every couple of years. There are some banks out there, and that has caused some delays in memberships because folks will forget to update their cards, and then of course by the time we realize that the card has been expired, your membership might have lapsed for a month or two. So yeah, just give the office a call. They'll be more than happy to set you up on auto renewal. There is a way to do it on YM. It would take longer than probably what we would need on this webinar. So you can either reach out to me at s-t@caves.org. I'll be more than happy to send you over directions, or just call the office tomorrow morning and they can walk you through it as well.
Yeah. And I think
Okay, I have a question on that.
Well,
can people, what I've done with some of my really serious bills that like life insurance that I need to make sure is paid, I have it go through my bank account where it's directly taken out of the bank, and they have the routing number in that. Can we do that for NSS members?
No, it's done on a credit card. We don't do it on a direct withdrawal from a bank account. We do it directly off of a credit card, but you can turn around and do a bill pay through your bank, and then that way you're actually pushing money out from your bank to the NSS. So instead of the NSS pulling money out of your account, then you would actually be pushing money to the NSS, and then that would be more of a foolproof way of you being able to make sure that your membership doesn't get lapsed.
Also save the NSS money because you don't have the bank charges for credit cards.
Oh, of course, right.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, more questions? You ready?
Yes.
Yes.
The next one is, has the NSS considered making all future meetings available online?
Well, let's see. That's you mean as far as NSS convention is concerned, or
I'm not sure. They didn't clarify. I think we have retained almost everybody during this webinar, So I think people are happy to have the ongoing online, and to have more meetings like this online for people to be involved in is maybe what she's talking about.
Right. Well, here's what I would propose is that we maybe do these on a quarterly basis. The next one, we probably won't go over the organizational structure of the NSS, but maybe use it as a more open forum to obtain, some of the thoughts from our membership on things we should be doing and what we could be doing. So I think we need to discuss with the officers maybe the structure of the next one, but I think it's something that we should try and do on a regular basis. I think our goal is to try and be as transparent as we can, both with what we're doing and financially. And so I think, that just is a good leadership, that we want to try and give to our members like the NSS. So.
Okay. Meredith says, thank you for your good work on the COVID situation. And another one says, if it isn't already, current auto renewal is not intuitive, and I can't tell if my CDS is also being renewed.
It is not. The CDS is not going to be auto-renewed. So how the system is set up is if you have a credit card NYM and you do not mark it as not being renewed, then you should have been set up on auto-renew. And when you log into the member portal, it would tell you whether you have been set up or not. If you had marked yourself as not being auto-renewed, we would need to go in there and change that setting for you in the office. So, if you're just now starting to set yourself up on YM, then you should see a toggle on your membership about whether you are auto-renewed or not. If not, again, just feel free. You can either shoot me an email personally, or you can contact the office. We'll be more than happy to walk you through. We do not auto-renew and collect the CDS memberships from the YM site. That's from the CDS site. So I can't answer any questions about the CDS.
Okay, now the question is, what are all these acronyms you're spouting?
Okay, YM is your membership. It is the software platform that folks are renewing their membership on. So that is the web page that you're actually logging on to join or to renew the NSS. And CDS is a cave diving section. So we are full of acronyms at the NSS.
And most places are really full of it. All right, thank you. Last one for right now that says, did you really say the 2020 convention online is free?
That's what I heard Rich say.
I heard too.
Yeah, but if you'd like to make a donation, we'd certainly be happy to take it. But yeah, right now I think the idea would be that it's going to be virtual. And one of the advantages of doing it, it'll be virtual and it'll be free. And one of the advantages is it'll allow people who maybe can't attend at least see some of the things that are going on. My impression is there's going to be a lot of really good presentations. So I know the awards banquet, I believe, will be online. The Board of Governors meeting will also be online. And we're hoping that some of the other sections will be willing to take some of the presentations and do them online too. So I think it's got a lot of potential. It's not quite the real thing. It's always best to meet, but I think it's as good as we can get considering the conditions we're dealing with.
Another question. It says, how about a student membership for kids at $25?
We already have one. It's for $26. All you have to do is call the NSS office. You have to be under 26 years.
Okay, and that's it so far.
Well,
Any
I
other
think,
questions?
yeah.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I think maybe we should call it a night. I wanted to say thanks to all the officers and to Nathan, and of course to you, Debbie, and and all our members for attending and some very good questions. So thank you all very much.
All right, everybody, thank you for attending CaveNet. We really appreciate all of you hanging out with us. Just a reminder, this and all webinars are recorded and stored on the NSS website of caves.org. So you can listen to them later and use them for Grotto and other meetings. This would be a great one for new members, help them understand. If they have questions about our inner workings and all that, this would be an awesome webinar for them to listen to and to kind of get a handle of what's going on. All right, Gary and everybody, thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
We wish everybody safety in this crazy time. And also, I want to again thank all of our NSS members and all those otherwise that are caregivers, first responders, healthcare, etc. All of those that are working on behalf of the safety of others and all of their selflessness. I know we have many of our members that are right on the front line dealing with this on a literally a minute by minute basis. And they're really heroes putting themselves at risk like this. And everybody have a good night and cave safely. We'll see you on the next webinar.
Take care.